Hello, my fabulous little tubies. We're back with our piece of paper that tells us what things are, and we have some self-drying clay today, because we are going to be making a talisman together. Isn't that fun? Aren't you guys excited? If you're not excited, get excited now. If you don't plan to get excited, well, you already know the answer to all of this. What is it I always say? If you don't like incense, I'm waiting. Say it with me. That's what I thought, Cindy Lou Who. Okay, so what the hell is a talisman? Well, last episode we talked about what a amulet is. I had to think about that for a minute. So, what is an amulet? So, in case you haven't seen that video, an amulet is something that you wear. It is a ring, a bracelet, necklace, whatever the case is, but it's something that you wear. It is attached to your corpse in some way. It can be, I kind of went a little controversial and said an amulet can be inside of you, and I'm not talking about a dildo. I'm talking about like a fake knee or a fake hip or a fake boot, because it is an object that is inside of the human body that is with you at all times. I even talked about how you might enchant those. Now, if you are not interested in amulets, let's talk about a talisman. So what is a talisman, and why do we care about them, and how do we make them, and what can they be made out of? Well, I got some internet research, and you know, I've never actually made a talisman, so I needed some internet research for this one. So a talisman is also an object that possesses magical or supernatural power. Okay, well, this is gonna freeze my enemies and vanquish the source, and we're all gonna say a power of 3 spell. So what is a talisman then? Like, what kind of supernatural power is in it? Like, can it make me a millionaire? And Adam, where the hell have you heard about talismans before? I've heard about talismans in video games and movies. I've never heard of talismans in Witchcraft, though. Although I suppose that they are a real thing, because I mean, some witches will tie a bunch of sticks together and hang them outside their house. That's a talisman. Carving pumpkins, that's another talisman. How is a pumpkin a talisman, you ask? Well, we generally carve scary faces in them. Why do we carve scary faces in them? Because it used to be that you would carve faces into pumpkins to scare off evil spirits. And in today's in today's society, we don't really carve them with scary faces for that reason anymore, but if you go by some things out Wicca, you know, it's to scare off negative energies. You could also make talismans you make them out of anything. That's why I'm flattening this piece of clay. It's self-drying clay. So there's much debate on the exact difference between an amulet and a talisman. If you haven't seen the amulet video, please go back to the episode 2 in the series where you will see what an amulet is. Some argue that the power of a talisman is greater magnitude, or that the talisman is able to be magically charged and to transmit its power to the owner or wielder. or that talisman is used for specific rather than general purposes. There are more complicated affairs than amulets, often involving carved or engraved figures or bearing magical symbols or inscriptions in gold. Generally, talismans are not worn, but may be carried in the pocket or purse or kept near the object they are intended to benefit, e.g., tacked over a child's bed. When linked with the appropriate spell, they greatly increase its strength, although they can also be used alone for their intrinsic magic purposes. So if you have a muslin bag at home, you store a bunch of herbs in there that you find maybe are protective or calming or help you with money or whatever the case is, and you put that muslin bag as a pouch in a drawer, around your neck sometimes. Maybe you bring it out during magical rituals that require that kind of energy. That's pretty much what a talisman is. Okay. In this case, what we have here is we have a piece of clay that I have been flattening out. And what we can do with this, if I have anything sharp around here, so what we can do with this is we can draw pictures in it. I'll make a very simple kind of engraving in here. I'm just going to put a really badly drawn pentagram. On one side, I will put a moon. On the other side, I will put a sun. It's really, really badly done. Really badly done. And then if you have like magical words, you could turn those into a sigil. So if we turned, I don't know, we'll put protect. So we'll do a P. We'll use that P to make the R. We'll use an O around where the P is, where the top of the P is. Let's see. We have a T in there, so we can put a line at the top. I have a straight line coming down. I mean, this is like, I doubt you'll even be able to see this if I showed it to you. And then we have an E in there. We have another T, so we can leave that out. We have a C. And there you go. And I mean, obviously you'd want to make something much better than what I have. I don't think you can see any of that, so I apologize if you can't see, if it just looked like clay to you. But the point that I'm trying to get across with this is that while you're carving and you're putting, your symbols, and maybe you're making a picture, maybe you're making a clay bowl that you put your keys or your loose change or whatever else into, right? And you're imbuing that with making those things, those valuables hidden, so that, if your house gets broken into, people don't tend to look there, or they don't care about that particular space. Maybe you've got $500 million in like this vase that you made in clay class, and on the bottom you put some sort of protection symbol on there, and you put your energy into it, and then you're storing your money in there, your millions in there, and then your house gets broken into and everything's stolen except that vase. Like, that's the purpose of a talisman. Or maybe you have a piece of clay. Maybe you broke off a piece of clay and you turned it into a coin or something that you carry with you when you go gambling. And it's to bring you money. That would be the purpose of like a talisman. You could make a talisman in basically the shape of anything. So if we break this apart for a minute, and you're rolling it up into, okay, so we've got the head, we'll make some body, this clay is starting to dry, so it's starting to fall apart. We'll make arms for this person. We're bad at this, but you've got the body and the arms, and let's say this is a representation of your child, right? So you're putting protective energy over it. It's more of a puppet at that point, but it could also be a talisman. If you hide it in their room, say under their bed or under their mattress or something like that, then what it becomes is a talisman that protects them. So when constructing a talisman, it's important to understand, okay, what is the difference between a talisman and a amulet, and what do I want the talisman to do? A talisman is usually more intricate. It's more made by you. You want to make the talisman yourself. And it's not about how pretty or gorgeous that the talisman looks. It's about the intention that you're putting into it. It's about, okay, what is the talisman's purpose? For me, the closest thing that would come to a talisman in my practice would be moon water. So I take a jar, a mason jar, and I fill it with water, and I leave it under the full moon or under the entire moon cycle from start to finish. And that, for me, is a beacon of energy that I can draw from in spells where I may actually be better off doing them under a full moon. So I'm drawing the power of that full moon and putting it into the spell, and thus it's giving it power of the full moon. That would be a better example of a talisman in my craft. Aside from that, I don't generally use talismans. Okay. So I'm hoping that this gave you some ideas or thought processes into, okay, what is a talisman and how do I make them or use them? I wouldn't buy a talisman, just like I said with an amulet. I wouldn't buy an amulet. I would rather buy a nice ring that I like or a nice necklace that I like, and then imbue it myself with magical energies. And with a talisman, I wouldn't want to buy one. I'd want to make one. I want to make a talisman that I can then use over and over again, or maybe it's a one-time thing. Before you go, though, a sigil is a form of talisman, just to let you know. So, if you don't have any artsy-fartsy supplies, but you got a pen and paper, there you go. Like, it doesn't get any simpler than that. Or if you're painting your bedroom in a house that you own, draw a sigil on the wall and paint over it. No one's ever gonna know it was there. So, unless you do a really bad painting job, you can see through the paint. Anywho, if you would like to see Lunar Wisdom's approach on this topic, please head over to her channel. The link is in the description. And I hope that you all learned something, and until next time.